Hi, I'm Rick Fussell, and welcome back to the Ingrain Workshop. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to build a workstation for your pocket hole jig. Now, there's nothing fancy about this workstation. I just built it out of the scrap wood that I had laying around the workshop. The joinery is just simply butt joints, glue, and screws. Very easy to put together. I think it took me a couple hours here in the workshop just to throw it together. Again, this is just a jig accessory, but it will help you organize your pocket hole accessories along with your screws. So let's get started. So let's go over a quick evolution of the pocket hole jig. I purchased my first pocket hole jig in September of 2000. The cost of that jig was $141 with tax, and this is it. This is the original K2 Craig pocket hole jig that I purchased back then. As you can see, it's built out of heavy-duty aluminum. It's very sturdy. Not a lot of bells and whistles on this, but it served me well. The second pocket hole jig I purchased was in 2005, and I purchased the Craig 2000 Pro Pack. And I think at that time, this one ran me approximately $175 maybe. It was a little bit more than the K2. Again, this was 5 years later. But it also came with a lot of accessories, riser blocks, just a lot of different things inside the Pro Pack that you didn't get with the original K2. So that was, the second pocket hole jig that I purchased. It's very similar to the original K2 in the design. It does have 3 reference holes where the K2 only had 2. And the big difference is the obvious difference. It's not made out of aluminum. It's made out of this high density plastic. Now that held up well, for 15 years. But you do have to change out the height of the riser block. You have to change all that manually. So I wanted to just upgrade to a newer pocket hole jig. And looking at the Craig jigs, over time, this did get a little flex in the plastic, so I decided to go with an aluminum off-market brand. So I purchased this Enjoy Wood pocket hole jig off of Amazon, and this jig is made out of lightweight aircraft aluminum, so it's sturdy. It's not going to give. The riser block adjusts manually on the jig itself. It has all the markings, so it's very easy to make adjustments on the fly. Same thing with the drill depth. When you're drilling through 1.5" material versus 3/4, you can adjust the color on the drill depth, and the measurement and guide is right there on the pocket hole jig. It's very versatile. I'll go into more detail on the actual jig itself after we build the workstation. I will leave a link in the video description below to where you can pick up this particular jig on Amazon. I think right now it's running around $67, which I thought was a great deal. The main reason why I purchased this was not only because it's made out of the aircraft aluminum, but because it has a dust port and dust collection, whereas the Craig 2000 and the Craig 2 did not have that. So I did some comparison shopping and looking at the Craig K5 that has the dust port and the dust collection, you're still looking at spending about $150. So I think for $67, this was a good purchase. I've used it without the workstation. That's the reason why I built the workstation. I finally got comfortable with it. I thought this is worth taking the extra time and building a workstation around it. And that's what we're going to do today. So let's get started building the workstation. So for this project, I'm going to use some 5/8 inch thick plywood, just some scrap plywood I had laying around my workshop. And we're going to start here at the table saw, and we're just going to rip them down to the proper width, which is 9 3/4 for my particular pocket hole jig. And I'm going to rip the top and also the bottom. And then I'm going to leave my rip fence in place because we are going to have to come back and make some more cuts at 9 3/4 inch, and I want to make sure that we keep the fence at that location. Okay, I'm here at the miter saw. We just ripped down the top and bottom for the workstation. We ripped them down to 9 3/4 inch widths. So we didn't readjust our table saw. We ripped both pieces through at the same time to ensure that the widths are the exact same. Now we're over here at the miter saw station, and what we're going to do is we're going to cross cut the top and bottom down to their actual size. So the bottom is going to be cut at 42 inches. The reason why the bottom is going to be longer than the top is because we want to be able to have handles on each end of the workstation and just make it easier for us to carry the workstation over to our assembly table. And then it will also give us enough room to clamp down the workstation to our assembly table while we're drilling out the pocket holes. So now back here at the table saw, I'm going to start ripping the sides of the workstation. There's going to be two side panels, left and right, and then there's going to be a center panel. And these panels are going to be cut at a width of 9 3/4 inches, just like the top and the bottom. So what I've done is I've left my rip fence still locked in at 9 3/4. Then I'll start ripping the sides and the centerpiece. That way I know they'll be the same width as the top and the bottoms. Now I'm just going to be using some scrap plywood. This is from a previous project. I think it was a French cleat clamp holder for my wood clamps. And I had some extras left over, so I'm going to use these to make the left and right side and the centerpiece. So for the finished top of the workstation, I've got some scrap 1/2 inch MDF, and that's what we're going to be using for the actual finished top. So I'm just going to use my DIY track saw guide here, along with my DeWalt skill saw, to just rough cut this down, because we do have 9 3/4 still locked in over at the table saw, and I'll do a finish cut over there. Now I'm going to rip the two sides in the center divider down to 3 inches. This is going to be the actual height of the actual workstation, and this is where the drawers are going to be installed. So I'm going to make all these cuts at 3 inches, and I believe they're 3 inches by 9 3/4 inches. Okay, so we're back here at my outfeed table, and I just wanted to kind of go over what we've cut out so far as the top, the bottom, the sub top, and then the sides. So let me just kind of give you an overview of what we've cut out so far, and then how I've laid out the bottom of the workstation and how everything's going to be put together. So let me start here at the top. The plywood portion, the 5/8 inch plywood, is the sub top, and then we have 1/2 inch MDF, which is going to be the finished top. And then the gap here in the middle is where the actual pocket hole jig is going to sit, and it's going to be mounted to the 5/8 inch drywall. And that's one of the reasons why I went with 1/2 inch MDF. The pocket hole jig is exactly 1/2 inch. So with the MDF being almost a dead flat surface, it's going to fit in there snug, and I'll have a flat surface all the way through the top. And also the top wing, these two wings, the left and right top wing is 15 inches. And then the width of this particular pocket hole jig, which is an Enjoy, and I'll leave a link in the video description below. It's 3 1/4 inches wide by 9 3/4 inches deep. So that's the exact measurement that I made this cutout for, so it should fit in there flush. And then we've got an overall length of 33 3/4 inches, which basically is the 30 inches plus the 3 3/4 inch width of the pocket hole jig. And then that's how you get the 15 inch wings. So that's pretty much the measurements for the sub top and the actual finished top of the workstation. Now here at the bottom of the workstation, this piece here is cut at 9 3/4 inches, like the two tops, by 42 inches long. The reason why it's longer than the top is because that's going to give you 3 to 4 inches on each side to clamp the top down, and also, which is what we're going to be doing next, is to cut out handles for storage and also for carrying the workstation to your outfeed table. So I just went ahead and used 1.5 inch diameter for the handles by 5 inches, and that should give my hand enough room to get in there to hold it and also to mount it to the wall for storage purposes. And then I've used the same 1.5 inch diameter circle, and I'm going to take and just round over the edges. And then the same thing on this end. I'm going to have the same identical handle. I believe it's 1 inch from the end, and then it's 1.5 inch diameter circles on each end, and the actual width of the handle is going to be 1.5 inch by 5 inches. So that gives you those dimensions. And then this line here is where one of the 3-inch sides that we just cut out. So that side is the left side of the workstation, and it's 3 inches by 9 3/4 inches. And then we'll have one here at the center, and then one on the right side. So that's sort of the layout for the bottom. And then there'll be just pull-out drawers on both the left and the right-hand side for storing the jig accessories, and also for storing pocket hole screws. So the next thing we're going to do is round over the edges, round over the ends here on the bottom, and then we're going to cut out for the handles. So here at my drill press table, I just have 1.5 inch diameter Forstner bit to make the cuts here for the handles. You'll notice also I've got a fence and a stop block in place, so you only have to lay out the hole one time. Then you can flip it and drill the other hole in the same handle, and then flip the whole bottom assembly around and make your holes for the other, your 2 holes for the other handle without having to take any measurements. So that's the great thing about having a drill press table with a fence and stop block. You only have to lay it out once, and then you can make repeated holes. So to finish up the handles, we'll use just a jigsaw just to complete the cuts here at the handles, and then I'll take a file and some sandpaper and just clean up the interior edges. Now with an 1/8 inch roundover bit in the router, I'm just going to soften the inside edges of the handle, and then I'm also going to route around the outside of the clamping area at the bottom. I'm going to have to set up a stop here so I can stop the roundover right at the side of the base unit. Now it's time to glue up the base of the unit, so I'm just going to start on one of the sides and apply some glue, and then set the sub top on top of it, and then come back and pre-drill and countersink 3 holes, and then I'll use some 1.5 inch drywall screws just to screw the sides to the sub top of the unit. So little did I realize at the time, but as I was gluing in the center divider, it's cut at the wrong dimension. It's cut at 9 3/4, which brings it all the way to the back, which doesn't allow me to install the back. So this piece here should have been cut 5/8 of an inch, or whatever the actual thickness of the plywood that you're using. It should be cut just shorter so you can fit your back. You'll see here I'll have to go back later and just use a multi-tool and cut out a piece out of this center divider so I can fit the back of the box in place. So we're pretty much going to repeat the process for installing the bottom to the base unit here. We're just going to take and use glue, and then we're going to pre-drill and countersink, and then use 1.5 inch drywall screws to fasten the bottom to the rest of the unit. With the base of the unit assembled, it's now time to install the actual Enjoy Wood pocket hole jig to the sub top. And here I'm going to be using a VIX bit or a self-centering bit along with my square just to make sure it's parallel to the edge of the board. And I've taken and just centered this, so then when we do put the finished top on, there should be 15 inches of clearance on both sides of the jig, which should give you plenty of surface area for drilling pocket holes. Next, we're going to prepare the actual finished top to be fastened to the sub top. And here I'm just going to use lots of glue, a liberal amount of glue here, and then come back and pre-drill countersink with some, I believe it was 7/8 inch drywall screws to fasten the finished top to the actual sub top. So here's the area that I was talking about before, where I had to bust out the multi-tool and basically just trim off 5/8 of an inch. And this is only so the back can slide in here and I can fasten the back to the base of the unit. So I had to go back over to the table saw and rip another piece of 5/8 inch plywood, 3 inches, which is the depth of the base unit, and then I'll have to take it over to the chop saw and cut it down to the length of the base unit. With the back now cut to fit, I'll just take a mallet and just wedge it in, and then once I get it in, I'm going to take and pre-drill, countersink, and screw the back of the unit to the base. Now it's time to make the drawer backs, fronts, and sides, so I'm going to come back here to the table saw and just start ripping some 5/8 inch plywood down to 3 inch widths. Actually, it's probably 2 15/16 just to give me a little play, since these drawers are just going to be friction fit drawers. Okay, so I'm back here at the table saw and I've got the fronts, backs, and sides cut out for my 2 drawers. Now I need to take and cut a 1/4 inch dado into the bottom of the fronts and backs and sides to accept the bottom of the shelf, which is going to be a 1/4 inch piece of plywood. We all know that that's really not a 1/4 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to put in a dado blade. I'm just going to use my regular blade with an 1/8 inch kerf, and then I'm just going to sneak up on the fit. I've got some scrap 1/4 inch ply that's going to be the bottom of the shelves, and I'll just dry fit it until I get the correct fit. And then I'm just going to use a 1/4 inch setup block to get the height of the blade to cut the dados into the sides and backs of the shelves. So that's what we're going to be doing next. So to lay out the dividers within my drawers, I'm just setting my tools out to get an idea of what size the dividers need to be. Okay, so I have the drawer dividers cut to size. Now I need to cut in this 1/2 inch or this half dado into both the vertical and horizontal pieces. This way, when they intersect with one another, one will slide over the other, and then that'll complete the dividers within the drawers. So now I have the drawers kind of just dry fitted for now, just to make sure that everything's going to line up. I have the drawer bottoms inside. I have all the dividers cut, and again, everything is just dry fit. This drawer will primarily be for screw storage, and then this drawer over here with just the vertical compartments will be for actual Craig accessories is what I'll be putting in here: drill bits, clamps, and that sort of stuff. So the next thing we're going to do is sand everything down, glue them up, and screw them together. So I had some sapele left over from a prior project, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip down a 3/4 inch piece and then cut a 5-degree bevel on 2 edges, and this is going to make up the handle for the 2 drawers, and then I'll just cut them at a length of approximately 4 to 5 inches. Next, with a spring clamp holding the handles in place, I'm going to take and pre-drill. Since this is a hard wood, I don't want it to split, so I'm just going to pre-drill and screw the handle from the back of the drawer, and that should be enough to fasten the handle itself to the drawer. Okay, so let's try out the Enjoy Wood pocket hole jig and the actual workstation together. So let me go over the process of how you start using the workstation to drill some pocket holes. So the first thing we're going to do is install some clamps and clamp it to the workbench. Now that we have it fully clamped down to the workbench, we're going to pull out our drill bit, our driver bit. We're also going to pull out our Allen key to adjust the collar. Like I had mentioned earlier, my collars are preset, but we'll go ahead and set one and show you how it's set up on the actual pocket hole jig. Then I'm going to take out my dust collection port, which basically ties the actual dust collection here at the pocket hole jig to my shop vac. We'll go ahead and plug the shop vac in. So let's take a closer look at the jig itself. So the first setting that we're going to have to do is here at the pocket hole jig at the riser block. And as you can see, it's got actual increments on the side of the riser block ranging from 1/2 inch up to 1 3/4 inches. I've got it set up right now at 1.5 inches. On the other side of the riser, you have the same increments, except they're in metric. So they're in metric on one side, and they're in standard or empirical measurements on the other side. As far as adjusting the riser block up and down for the width of your wood, it simply has these 2 brass knobs, and you can just lower it or raise it. And that's what I like about this with the aircraft aluminum. It's very sturdy, and I really like that. So we're going to set this up to 1.5 inches and then tighten it down. So now the riser block is at the right height for the material that we're going to be joining together. And again, I'm just using some 2x4 material, which the nominal dimension is 1.5 inches. The next measurement is for the actual clamp itself, and similar to the riser block, the clamp has a scale printed out on the clamp on the jig itself. So here you have a metric scale, and then you have the standard scale on this side, and this is for the adjustment of the clamp that clamps the wood against the back riser here. So it's very easy just to loosen this nut and then screw the clamp in or out. So the way this works is you go ahead and put it in the closed position, and then you can adjust it to line up to the 1.5 inch mark, which is what I've already done here. So now when we do put our 2x material in here, it will clamp in fine, no problem. It's not going to go anywhere. Then the third and final adjustment that you have to make will be for the actual drill bit itself. So this measurement, these 2 measurements are for the clamp, and then back here, these measurements, again, metric on one side, standard on the other, is for the depth of the drill bit. So what you do is you set the collar flush against the back of the jig, and then wherever the drill bit, whatever scale it reads, is the depth of your cut. And again, on the drill bit itself, you'll see it's got a stepped end. The measurement is from the actual bit itself, not from the tip of the bit, but to where the actual drill bit starts. So we're going to set the collar. I've got it set up to 1.5 inches here. So we should be good to go as far as the depth of our pocket hole. So we should be ready to drill some pocket holes. Now you can see just the suction from the vacuum will actually hold the piece in place. Now, as you can see, I mean, there's no drill shavings or sawdust anywhere on the workstation. I mean, the vacuum system on this really works out great. So now we've got our 2 pocket holes drilled, and we can just join our boards. And that's it. We've got a pocket hole joint here. This example was with some scrap 2x4s, but the process is the same whether you're joining 3/4 inch, 1 inch, 1/2 inch. Just make the adjustments on the pocket hole jig, and you can drill a pocket hole into for any joinery. So with the wings of the workstation where the handles are located, it makes it very nice to be able to just come in here and put in a clamp and clamp down both sides of the workstation. So you know it's not going to go anywhere. Then in the drawers here, I've got my different bits. And as I showed you earlier in the video, the 3 different pocket hole jigs that I've owned over time, I went ahead and saved all the drill bits. I've never really broken a drill bit. And what I've done is I've just set the collar stops. So the materials that I'm mostly working with is 1.5 inches and 3/4. So I've got this bit as my dedicated 1.5 inch bit. And then these bits are at, I think, 3/4 and 1 inch. So no matter what, I don't have to adjust the depth of the drill bit. I can just put the proper drill bit in and go with it. It also has, keep my Allen key here for adjusting the collars if I need to. But like I said, once I've got my set depths, I just have my 3 dedicated drill bits for whatever depths that I'm drilling. And then I've got different lengths for the driver bits in here. And then in my center divider here, I've just got different Craig pocket hole accessories, the single pocket hole clamp on, and then the double pocket hole clamp on. And then this is my dust collection port. Now the Enjoy wood pocket hole has the dust collection port. This is just to modify it so I can just hook it up to my shop vac. And this works extremely well. This is really what sold me. Not having a dust collection on your pocket hole jig, everyone knows it can get really messy, and having a dust port on it is a definite plus. And then in my other divider, I just have some various clamps that I keep in here. So in the other drawer, I just have a total of 6 individual dividers for the different pocket hole screws. I've got 1.25 inch, 2.5 inch, 2.5 inch rated for moisture, and I've got some plugs here. I'll probably put more plugs, and then I've got an assortment of different size screws. So you can personalize it however you want. That's what's great about this. And again, there's nothing fancy about it. It's just cheap plywood that I had, some 1/2 inch MDF. Everything's just screwed, butt joint, no fancy joinery. I did have some leftover sapele from a previous project, and I just cut these at a 5-degree angle and just screwed them in for handles, and that's it. And the great thing about having the handles on the end too is so when you're done, you can store it. So let me show you how easy that is. So for storage, I have these mobile storage bins that I keep in my workshop, and I just mounted a cleat basically on the side of this mobile storage rack. It's close to my workbench, and I just think it's more convenient to have your jigs close by because you'll be more inclined to use them. So this will just fit over the handle on the workstation, and then the workstation can just stand up here vertically and nothing falls out of the drawers. Let me show you. And that's it. So, the workstation is mounted here on the side of this cart. Whenever I need it, I just take it to my outfeed table, and then I can do my work. And then as soon as I'm done with it, I can bring it back over here and it's out of the way. I think it's a good addition to the workshop. Again, this is something simple. It took me a couple hours to build, and again, didn't cost me anything. I just built it out of scrap plywood, MDF, some drywall screws, some glue, and that was it. I hope this helps you out in giving you maybe some ideas on what you can do to make your own pocket hole jig workstation. Well, that's going to wrap up this video. I hope this video kind of gives you some ideas on how you can build your own pocket hole jig workstation. Now, again, I just threw this together in a couple hours with just some scrap wood, simple joinery, just butt joints, glue, and screws. Have fun with it. You can build it however you want. You could put drawer slides in it, make it very nice, customize it for your needs. Again, it's just a jig. It's just something that I use temporarily while I'm doing pocket holes. So I didn't want to spend that much money in it or that much time. But I hope this gives you an idea on what you can do for a workstation. If you enjoyed the video, or if the video gives you any ideas on how you can build your own workstation, then please leave me a like. It really helps out the channel. And if you're new to the channel, then please consider hitting that subscribe button and ringing that notification bell. That way you'll be notified of all our upcoming projects and videos. This channel is primarily dedicated to DIY projects and woodworking projects. I'll leave a link in the video description below to where you can pick up the Inwood pocket hole jig. Again, this is not a ding on Craig. I've been a loyal Craig supporter for 23 plus years. I just really liked this pocket hole jig and the construction of the jig and the ease of setup. That's all it is. So I'll leave a link in the video description where you can pick that up. Also leave a link to our Etsy store. We build post office box door banks here at the Ingrain Workshop. And if you're interested in purchasing one of those, check out our Etsy store. Again, this is Rick with the Ingrain Workshop. Thanks for watching and have a great day.